Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Political Standpoint. Now, whilst we're trying to reconnect with Alhaji Yabagisani, who I understand is now in a dead zone and we can't even see him. But whilst we're trying to do that, let's bring in a political affairs analyst, Olabode Useni, who joins us virtually from the United Kingdom. Good to have you join us.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, so I was asking Mr. Yabagisani earlier before we lost connection with him, and I'm going to ask you the same question. You know, that's talking about the unprecedented number of political party or party representation in the 10th Assembly, and what you think that means for our democracy.
Well, thank you again. Traditionally, the more party in a democratic structured of any country, the better, because it gives, it presupposes that many people will have more to say. But then in the current situation in Nigeria, it's an issue that the way politics of Nigeria operate, I think it presupposes that discipline, issue of interest, issue of the largest party, they will need to protect their interest. And what is also very important for good governance is that the president, this time around is still the president, then comes the president-elect, should be able to have a good working relationship with all the parties, especially with the first and the second arms of government, that is the legislature. In this case, is NAS, that's the House of Senate. That's Senate, and then the House of Representatives. The party, the largest party, as we speak now, I believe is APC, should do everything possible to have a well put together working relationship, because the president will need them as time goes on when it comes to passing bills and all that kind of thing. So we need them. I think the president will need to get more if he's able to have, it's his own interest to have a well-coordinated working relationship.
And I want to get to that in a moment in terms of the role that the opposition might play and how the APC should begin to build that working relationship with the opposition. But let's talk about the concern that a lot of people are raising in terms of the turnover of legislators in the country. Many have said, look, a lot of the high-ranking legislators are not returning to the 10th Assembly, and that's a cause for concern when majority of the lawmakers elect and are first-timers. Do you share the same concern?
No, not at all. And I'll tell you why I don't share that concern. Is because, like I said, in the democracy, one can start by saying democracy can be a little bit messy, can be a little bit, even though it looks like it's common, system all over the world. But at the same time, it might be very difficult to operate. But what is important is if a legislature does not come in last year or last assembly, does not matter. The arrangement, the order is to have every politician to participate, and those politicians that win the election want to take their rightful places in the respective House of Assemblies. Now, take example of America. The America don't do. We are doing ours differently. We sit tight every 4 years, whereas in America is every 2 years. So there'll be many that have gone and not come back. Oh yes, it is good if you have a continuity in some of the legislators that have been there before, but still does not mean that the new one will not have time to learn.
But when you have lawmakers who are having to learn all over again the nitty-gritty of lawmaking, oversight functions and representation, doesn't that sort of slow down the legislative process?
No, I don't think so. A good example is when you enter university. Maybe you are a rookie in the first one semester, but then again, you must get your acts together. You started learning the nuance of what you want to study. So I think the same thing. again, it has its own disadvantage if you have one particular person doing the last 8 times or 4, 5, 6 times. And in Africa, again, we've seen that they have not done all that much to contribute to governance. So if I will not be surprised if the new incoming legislature will even perform better than the old ones.
All right, so let's talk about the legislature itself, because perhaps people will say that this is the only true reflection, or the true reflection of the representative democracy, because every constituency is represented in there. I want to ask you how critical it is that if we get the foundation of its leadership right.
Again, President, like I said, when you talk about putting leadership together, because I can understand that when the I think 108 or 103 senators come together, the first thing is to elect or select their leader or leadership of that house. The same thing goes with the House of Rep. So once that is done, again, it's just a question of they cannot afford too much try and error. I understand what you are trying to get at, but I'm still saying that you do not forget that people that are sent to to Senate and House of Rep, they are not kids. They are people who are already been in politics, who fought an election to win their seats, and when they get there, there's always the order of the module operandi is there. So we cannot afford to start treating them with a way like you want to treat kids. They should wake up and find what they need to do. These are issues that is very, very paramount to governance or legislation. So I wouldn't take too much time in worrying about whether they'll be able to perform within a short period of time or not. Like I said to you, in America, it's every 2 years. Most time there'll be more people that will lose their seat the 2 years, and the new one will join. So you see, as long as the structure, the modalities of how to operate is in place, all you just need is just to follow the rules and regulations of legislation and so on.
But even in the U.S., every 2 years, quite all right. But that's where you have the midterm elections. But it's usually not, all seats that are up for election. But I want to bring in Alhaji Yabagisani, who I understand we have now connected with. Alhaji Yabagisani, I was asking you earlier about the unprecedented number of parties in this particular assembly and what that means for the democracy.
Well, it's like I said, it's a very good development for democracy, because democracy itself is about the people. And when you have parties, multi-party system taking root, then that democracy is developing. So that's why we are happy with the development that we have more than 2 parties now that can hold sway in the National Assembly. That will work for democracy. It will work for checks and balances. It will work for people's parliament, because you will now have voices that will now be on the side of the people. So to that extent, I think it's a very good development. And we need more of that. We need more parties to come to the National Assembly so that the quality of decisions, I'm talking about the laws that they are making, will now reflect the wishes of the generality of the people of this country. So it's a very good development as far as we are concerned.
I was asking Mr. Oseni earlier about the concerns people are raising about the high turnover of legislative or lawmakers, rather, and that we're having a lot of first-timers in the 10th Assembly, and if that's a cause for concern. And I just want to pose the same question to you.
Yeah, well, there's always a sense in having institutional memory, people that have institutional memory, so that you'll be able to quickly, catch up with the events as they develop. But having said that, you should know also that we have an institute that is purposely put in place to train new legislators. That is the NILS, the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, which is an institution that is put in place to train new legislators. Experience matters, yes, but democracy is about all of us. It's not just about few people who have the opportunity of being National Assembly. And perhaps you may have a much more robust, deliberations, by having new people coming in with new ideas who probably have seen it better from outside. You don't have just people are inside thinking, in the same way as they are used to. So I think there's a good value to get from having new people come into the National Assembly.
All right, so I want to take a clip from one of the meetings or one of the events held by lawmakers-elect yesterday, and the vice president-elect was there, and he did make some statements there, and I just want to take that clip, and then we will speak to it.
Okay.
Eye of the storm as a result of his preference for some lawmakers-elect as presiding officers of the 10th National Assembly. And the past few days, after the party's formal release of its anointed candidates, controversies for and against have not stopped.
For the president-elect, and we already know what.
This coalition of civil society groups is seeking non-interference from any external force into the election of presiding officers by members-elect in line with Section 50 of the 1999 Constitution as amended.
We appeal to the president-elect to toe the same line of honor that produced him as the candidate of his political party, and also he should also provide a level playing ground by allowing the legislatures to do their jobs as provided by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The group cautions the party against usurping the powers of members-elect to choose their leaders.
What are we leaving behind? The institutions. Is these institutions of strong men or institutions that will live beyond us? So I urgently advise these present stakeholders, they should always have this in mind, that our children are behind us. We should live a society that is very strong on values.
We urge the president-elect to allow the National Assembly to select or elect their leadership. We have 3 arms of government. Don't impose whoever you want to do your bidding to the National Assembly.
The coalition says an imposition of leaders may create unrest and expose the nation's fragile democracy to harm. Jokeetsa, TVC News, Abuja.
I do apologize. There's a challenge with getting across, bringing you that statement being made by the vice president-elect. Well, we have that video. I will play it for you. But I just wanted you to get the thought of what our opposition lawmakers or the civil society in terms of the leadership of the 10th Assembly. Alhaji Sani, when you are the chairman of IPAC, when you speak with some of these opposition parties, what are they telling you in terms of how they want things to play out in the 10th Assembly?
Well, this is politics, and it's about interest. At IPAC level, our interest is what will keep Nigeria one and work for all of us. To that extent, the issue of the president-elect or any other person with influence allowing National Assembly members to elect whoever they so want may not be tenable. I'll tell you why. You don't change the rules of the game in the middle of the game. The president-elect came on board as a result of zoning. So you can't change that now. And zoning did not allow delegates to elect whoever they wanted to elect when they had their primaries, when they were fielding their candidates. That is how President Bola Tinubu was able to get the ticket and become the president of this country. So I think zoning has become a bylaw, or has become a dictum, or if you like, the convention in our political arrangements. So zoning must be, because otherwise you will end up having crisis, in the country, and the government itself may not be able to function properly to deliver on their mandate. So that is why people are saying they should be allowed to do whatever they like. Yes, we know there are laws. We know that democracy says you should allow everybody to elect whoever they want to elect. But we settled for zoning. So we must go all the way until we reach the end of the process. And the end of the process will mean after the National Assembly elections have taken place, and the people that are going to preside over the affairs of the National Assembly are elected in order to balance, the polity. Because and IPAC, we came out to say that our position is that the Senate President should be zoned to either South-South or South-East. So we are happy that APC has thought it wise to follow our advice by zoning the Senate President to South-South. We also advise that the Speaker should go to Northwest, because Northwest also deserves to be given a leader of one of the institutions that make up the government itself as a structure. You have legislative arm, you have the executive arm, and then those are the ones that are normally elected. So you should have Northwest, having played a very fundamental role, very effective role in APC winning, should be given the position of the Speaker. And then other positions can now be given to other zones, like North Central. We are saying that they should allow Deputy Senate President to go to North Central. If you like, you can still add the leader of the Senate, to come from the Northwest if you feel a speaker is not enough in order to compensate them for what they did. So we are of the opinion, or rather of the view, that Nigeria must come first, regardless of your interest. So this is what I want people to understand.
All right, let me bring in Olabode Hussein into the conversation. I mean, you heard what Alhaji Sani said, talking about the current zoning arrangement of the APC. I just want my producer to put that out there, that zoning arrangement where you have the south, and that it's been zoned to the south. That's the Senate presidency, Akpabio. And then the Northwest has the speakership of the House of Representatives. And then when you go further down, you see that in terms of the deputy speaker, it went to the Southeast. And then Northwest also has the deputy Senate president. There it is. You see the names there. What's your thought on that arrangement, Olabode Hussein?
Thank you very much. Let me start by saying, as a political public affairs commentator, I don't subscribe to Sony. I don't know whether Sony is in the Constitution of Nigeria or not. And also, I'm not too sure whether it's properly spelled out in the political parties' constitutions. So these are the two areas where we can take advantage and use Sony. As far as I know, most of the political party internal constitution does not necessarily embolden or highlight that it must be zoned. It must be zoned to A, B, C, D area. And let's get this right. The chief executive, which is the president-elect or the president, has a job to do. And in order to do his job properly, he must show aspect of how best he can run the business of governance in such a way that stumbling blocks, inhibitions, and all that kind of thing are reduced, are minimized. So the interest of the president has to go with that doctrine of political party supremacy. The political party supremacy is key here. It's also very, very important. And that's why I think if the chief executive for this new company want to take over, he should be able to work with people he feels comfortable with. I understand that the democracy, there will always be the majority and the minority. But we cannot continue to run a big business like a big business of Nigeria with the sentiment of the zoning of this and that must be. Don't forget, there's still many other nice positions left after the major one has been occupied. So those who are clamoring that they just zone this and they still have opportunity to get some other.
Mr. Oseni, when you say you do not agree with zoning, and there are a lot of people who also say, look, they don't agree with zoning, and that they should allow the 10th Assembly or the National Assembly should always be allowed to choose its leaders. But when you have the president from one particular zone and the vice president from another zone, people say, look, just for balance, that you should find competent leaders or competent members of the assembly from other zones to take the other positions, just to create a semblance of balance and unity in the country.
Yeah, you just use the word competence, capacity. It's also part of the problem. I mean, again, I'm sorry to say this. At 76, I'm yet to see a well put together governance that benefit the people of Nigeria. And that's why I'm laying my hope on these incoming government that probably would take advantage of the opportunity he's going to have to rule better than what we have had the last 60-something years. An average Nigerian cannot show anything for democracy in Nigeria. And again, like I said, this issue of zoning, issue of patriotism, it has not helped. It has not changed the dynamics of good governance in Nigeria. That has to be said. The truth of the matter is, like I said, the incoming government, the president, should be able to work with people whom he believes will be able to deliver. He'll be able to. He cannot start his business with the fancifulness of somebody is from this person or that person and all that kind of thing. It doesn't work that way. In a civilized climate, in a civilized camp, it is the competencies. It is not the person you know and all that kind of thing. You want to put people who merit, who can work with the president to deliver his agenda, not just because you want somebody from south, southwest, or all that kind of thing. These are things that has not helped good governance in Nigeria. And I think this government coming in to be able to work and sort all these problems out once and for all. Governance should be based on competency, not on whom you know and all that kind of thing.
All right, so we will take this conversation further. We'll take a break now. When we return, we'll bring in a lawyer who perhaps will be able to tell us the constitutional dynamics to all of this. Let's